It was for this reason, my boy, that I decided, while existing among these favorites of yours this time, to choose, from among the professions existing there, that one which gives the possibility at times of automatically establishing among them those relations by which they can be sincere up to a certain degree. And this in order that the possibility might be open to me to make the investigations which were indispensable to me, and by this means to obtain materials for my elucidations. That is why I then became just such a professional there, as is called at the present time a physician. This profession there corresponds somewhat to that profession which those whom we call our Zerlichners have. Besides this said profession, there is, by the way, there yet another profession, with the representatives of which some of your favorites automatically become more sincere, perhaps, than with others, particularly concerning those as they express themselves inner experiencings of theirs, which I needed most of all for my elucidation. However, although that profession might yield more material for my investigations, I did not wish to choose this profession for myself, to which what are called confessors most often devote themselves, for the sole reason that this profession constantly constrains one to play outwardly a role, and never allows one to consider one's inner real impulses. Before telling you further, I must, I think, enlighten you a little also about what the contemporary physicians there represent in themselves, who ought to correspond to our Zerlichners. You probably already well know that Zerlichners among us on the planet Caritas, as also in general beings similar to them on other planets of our great universe, upon which breed already formed three-brained beings, and from the number of whom are several who, called differently on different planets, take upon themselves essential obligations in relation to the environment of beings similar to themselves. Well, these Zerlichners are those responsible individuals who voluntarily devote the whole of their existence to helping any being of that region to fulfill his being obligations. If this being, for some reason or other, or simply thanks to a temporary irregular functioning of his planetary body, ceases to be able to fulfill his inner and outer being duty by himself, it must without fail be noticed that in former times also on your planet such professionals as are now called their physicians were almost the same and did almost the same as our Zerlichners among us. But gradually, with the flow of time, the responsible beings there who devoted themselves to such a profession, namely to the fulfillment of such a high voluntary being duty taken upon themselves, degenerated, like everything on that strange planet, and became also absolutely peculiar. And at the present time there, when the functioning of his planetary body in one or other of your contemporary favorites becomes deranged in this or that respect, and when this being ceases to be able to fulfill his being obligations, these contemporary physicians of theirs are also called in for help. And no question about it, these physicians do also indeed come. But how they help, and how they discharge by their inner essence the obligations taken upon themselves, it is precisely here, as our highly esteemed Mullah Nasruddin says, that the dead camel of the merchant Vermasan Zarunan Alaram is buried. Know first of all that at the present time, there, those contemporary three-brained beings become those professionals who for the most part, during the period of their preparation to be responsible beings, succeed, as is said there, in learning by rote much miscellaneous information concerning those means for getting rid of every possible kind of what is called their illnesses, means which old women in their dotage during all previous times on their planet employed upon or advised for three-brained beings there to this end. Among the number of such means for getting rid of the said illness, there are chiefly various remedies existing under the name of medicines. Well, when one of the contemporary beings becomes a responsible professional, and when other beings needing his help apply to him for this help, he uses or prescribes just these mentioned remedies. Here it will be very useful for the development of your reason if to your common presence is added a logic Nestorian implantation from information concerning one particular very peculiar property which is acquired in the psyche of these contemporary professionals of the planet Earth. This peculiar psychic property is acquired by those terrestrial professionals as soon as they receive the title of qualified physician, and it functions constantly in them during their wish to help other beings who need their aid. The point is that, in their common presences, both the intensity of the desire to help and the quality itself of the help given always depend exclusively on the smell there is in the house to which he is called. Namely, if the house to which such a contemporary professional is called for help smells of what are called English pounds, then in it, thanks to this smell, not only does his inner being wish to help the suffering being increase to the point of what is called ne plus ultra, but even in outer manifestations, his planetary body at once assumes the form of a zedzatshun, i.e. a beaten dog. In the case of most contemporary physicians, there even appears on their faces from this smell what are called bootlicking expressions, and their bobtail becomes pressed tight, almost glued between their legs. But if the house to which such a terrestrial Zerlichner is called for help to a needy being smells of what are called cancelled German marks, then his inner being wish to help the person in need also increases, but only in this respect, that he may write out as quickly as possible what is called a prescription invented by the Germans, and the more quickly leave the house. Here also I must tell you that when this second case, the contemporary terrestrial beings who have the profession of physician leave the house of the person who needed their help and walk along the street, then all their exteriors, even the muscles of their faces, invariably express something as follows: you curs, look out, otherwise I shall crush you like cockroaches. Don't you see that here comes not just anybody, but a genuine representative of science, who has fully assimilated the knowledge given by the highest contemporary seat of learning? It will be most opportune now to tell you a little also concerning those medicinal means I mentioned, which exist there in great numbers under every kind of name, and which, on the advice of these contemporary physicians, are introduced into themselves by other ordinary beings, ostensibly as an aid in their various illnesses. And it is also infallibly necessary to tell you about it, for, who knows, you too may suddenly have to exist at some time or other on that peculiar planet among these queer folk, and you would not know how to deal with these numerous medicinal means and what significance to give them. First of all, know and remember this, that the young three-brained beings there, particularly of the most recent times, who prepare themselves to take, when they arrive,